Hello, everyone. Jason Hagholm here, back with another edition of Jason and the Gentleman. And as always, to do the show with me is the gentleman of mixed martial arts, the gentleman Josh Hill, who has safely made the trek back out to California as he gears up for his return to the Bellator cage on December 3rd against Jared Scoggins. Josh, how you doing, man?
I'm good, my man. I made it. I made it into the country. I'm stateside, and made it in before the crazy deadline. But I'm here, and everything is good.
Well, that is good. I'm glad you had no issues making it south of the border. And I mean, obviously, only been there, a couple days, but you're getting your training in. And obviously, they always treat you good there at Team Alpha Male. But how's everything going? I mean, Team Alpha Male on Friday had a big Friday at the LFA.
Yeah, man, it's good. it's always good here, dude. Yeah, I've been here. Yeah, today's Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, and like the room's just been packed, like more than I've ever seen it. To be honest, how many guys are here? So lots of bodies, lots of high skill guys here. So it's good, man.
Well, it's great that you made it out there and have now tons of mixed martial arts going on right now and getting ready for your fight. And I mean, the focal point, obviously, of the weekend was UFC 268, which is a show we were very excited for. And, with Madison Square Garden. And I thought this show delivered and then some. I thought pretty much every fight in this card was excellent. It was one of those rare cards where I thought Dana could have bonused everyone on the card because it was that exciting. I mean, if you look at it top to bottom, there really wasn't a bad fight. And let's focus first of all, Josh, on the main event, Welterweight Championship, Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington. And I thought it was a very competitive fight, and you could see kind of the improvements that Usman made. But as the fight, progressed in those championship rounds, I thought Colby, showed why he got that opportunity, was able to fight a hard fight. And I thought he actually won those last two championship rounds on my scorecard. But all in all, Kamaru Usman wins a unanimous decision, and he's just building up that resume, kind of gunning towards a George St. Pierre. I don't think he's still there yet. He's now had 5 title defenses, which is very impressive in today's MMA. But he's definitely building that one of the best welterweights of all time. Even Dana White called him the greatest welterweight of all time.
Well, that's because he's just anything to put one over Georgie, right?
Yeah.
But did you score the fight for Usman 3-2 then?
I did, yes. I thought Usman won the first 3, and I gave Colby the last 2.
Yeah. I think he won the fight. But it just goes to show, just like the first fight, man, these guys are neck and neck. Colby is right there. He talks all like he does his character shit, but he can fight, man. We said that before. His cardio, both guys' cardio, to be honest. But especially Colby's, the way he can push that pace for that 25 minutes, man. Very, very impressive. It sucks that he's 0-2 now against the champ, but again, he's proven that he could be a champ. You know what I mean? He's right there, and if one round maybe went different, he could be the champion right now. So all in all, very, very high level, good fight back and forth, and Usman, man, he's a monster, a beast. I wouldn't put him at George's level yet, but he is on his way.
He's definitely on his way, especially with now 5 title defenses, still technically never been taken down in any fight he's ever had in the UFC, which is just a remarkable stat, especially against someone of a high-level wrestler he's fought, like Colby Covington, not once but twice. Gilbert Burns, Leon Edwards he's fought in there before, never been taken down. But, yeah, I still think you need to have a couple more wins, especially when you look at what George did back when welterweight was one of the top divisions in that promotion in the UFC, and just who he beat, like, Matt Serra, Matt Hughes, John Fitch, Carlos Condit, Nick Diaz, BJ Penn. Like, some of these are Hall of Famers. Some of these guys are Hall of Famers. And while what Kamaru's doing is very impressive, and you can see just how much he's turned and is probably right now pound for pound the best mixed martial artist in the world, he's still, I think, a year, maybe 2 away from really having this discussion with about George St. Pierre's legacy or anything like that at 170 pounds.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, all the killers that Georgie fought his whole career, and Usman has been beat some really good guys as well. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I just think he is definitely on track, to be that kind of way. It's all subjective too, but like I don't think he's there yet. I agree with you. I think just George has shown, more of a, he's beat tougher guys at that time, I think, than Usman has currently. But yeah, like you said, I think by this time next year, it might be different if he's had 2 or 3 more fights.
Yeah, and I think as well, the one argument everyone is having towards maybe putting Usman ahead is, well, Usman's never lost in the UFC. George St. Pierre lost twice. Yes, but guess what George St. Pierre did? He avenged those losses in even more dominant fashion. So I think we'd have to consider that as well. And just going back to our point, I don't think the resume is that deep, considering there are 5 title defenses, but 2 of those are again in rematches. He's only beat one guy one time and kind of vanquished him from that realm right now and where welterweight is. But and for Colby, I think this is a fight that adds to him being a top contender or still a player, because while he lost a decision, that second round was unbelievable because he could have been put away. Usman was just showcased how much his striking had improved. Colby does, weathers the storm and is able to fight another 3 rounds of competitive MMA action. And, seems to be gunning towards a fight with Masvidal going into 2022.
Yeah, I think that's a good move by him, to be honest. You've lost the champ twice now, very, very close. And again, like I reiterate, he's right there at the top. But a fight with Masvidal, I think, is the next best thing if you're not going to win a championship. Huge name, huge beef behind it, huge storyline behind it. Could be a moneymaker. So I think that's smart on his part.
It even took a little dig at Masvidal doing stuff with AEW, saying someone asked him some question if he was thinking about getting into pro wrestling. He was like, "Yes, I do it for WWE, not like a second-rate company like AEW." It's like, oh wow, like even at that level, you want to take the digs. But I thought, and I think just Colby's one of those guys right now where he's kind of like, a Dan Marino or a Jim Kelly, where they're great quarterbacks in the NFL at one point, but there's a Troy Aikman or a Joe Montana that's just one step better. And obviously football more of a team game than MMA or anything like that, but that's kind of just where Colby is right now. Just one more thought on that fight, Josh. The second round where Usman had Covington in a lot of trouble, did you think that was a 10-8 round?
No.
Exactly. I didn't as well. I didn't think there was enough of the 3Ds, damage, duration going on in there. I just thought, obviously, he had Usman in trouble, or Usman had Covington in trouble, but I just didn't think it was enough time to make it a 10-8 round because there was like 30 seconds left in the round.
No, man. And then, like, what if somebody takes somebody down and has their back for like 4 minutes and just pounds the shit out of them for 4 minutes? Is that the same? Then it just I don't see that at 10-8. I think a 10-8 has to be like the fight was like just an absolute one-sided beating for that round, or it was like you got dropped 3 times. You know what I mean? Or it just has to be like clear-cut dominant. Like, how the hell did he survive that?
Yeah, and I think if you look at the letter of the law, I don't think it filtered in because there was damage, but there wasn't enough duration for it to be a 10-8 round. And just the impact as well. Like, it wasn't that long. It was pretty even round up until that last 30 seconds or so where Usman dropped him and whatnot. And I mean, obviously, and also like MMA, boxing. In boxing, if you get dropped, that's automatically a 10-8 round. In MMA, it's kind of, you need to do a lot more damage with it. The knockdown itself, I don't think qualifies it being a 10-8 round. I think that was there was a lot of debates going on about, oh, what's that, a 10-8 round or not? And just wanted to get your take on it, since you're someone that does do that for a living.
Yeah, and then I think that's again we're trying to follow the boxing thing, which I don't. It's not the same shit, man. We should get away from that and do our own thing. It's not the same sport. So yeah, that's my take on it. I'm not a fan of all that. And we've talked about this numerous times. I think it needs to be a complete overhaul of the whole system and like the rounds and everything like that. You know what I mean? So, but that's where we're at right now.
And then, yeah, and this one for sure, the judges, I thought they all got it right. Right guy won, unanimous decision enough. Usman retains and now waits for another contender. And what do you make of him trying to say, I'm gonna box Canelo Alvarez, which I think would be a disastrous idea for your brand, especially if you saw Canelo's fight this past weekend.
Yeah, he's just trying to do the Connor thing and make a shit ton of money. And just try to bring that draw. But yeah, as far as the fight itself, man, I mean, Usman is a very good MMA fighter, very well-rounded, good striking, good wrestling, freak athlete, but like putting him up there with Canelo, man,
The pound for pound best boxer on earth right now.
Right now, you know what I mean? It's yeah, it's not the same shit, you know what I mean? And I think it would be a bad idea.
Like at least with the McGregor and Floyd stuff, they were kind of like messing with each other or getting the buzz generated on social media, like for a couple months or maybe even a year beforehand. This is like, I'm just gonna fight Canelo Alvarez, and that's a terrible idea, especially after seeing what Canelo did to Caleb Plant on Saturday night in Vegas. But yeah,
I don't blame Usman though for it. Like he because he could still go and he could get beat the shit beat out of him by Canelo, and okay, it's Canelo. You went to boxing, you went to his sport, you lost, right? It's not a huge deal. You still made bank, and then you come back and be the champ still in the UFC. So I get it. I understand why he wants to do it. I don't blame him for it. So, but I just don't. I think technically in the fight, he's he didn't get killed.
I get what he's trying to do too, but I just think also. I think we're kind of over the MMA fighter versus a boxer in boxing. I think that is very passe now. It doesn't really intrigue a lot of people unless it's a certain MMA fighter versus a certain boxer where you could see the MMA fighter maybe having some success in boxing. It just feels like it's been done to death, especially this year alone.
Oh yeah, everybody's trying to do it, right? But it'll keep happening, and I think if there's money to be made and people will pay to watch it, then it'll keep happening.
Well, I wonder where we go next with Kamaru. I'm assuming we talked about this last week. Do they give Khamzat Chimaev another fight or Usman? I could see them maybe giving Chimaev a chance next up, but definitely Usman doesn't need a fight for a very long time because he's already pretty much solidified. He's the fighter of the year and the pound for pound best fighter right now, and kind of needs to wait and see how welterweight shakes out.
They'll give Chimaev another fight. I think they have to. One more win over a big name, then I think he'll get a title shot. But I don't think it'll be next.
The only other guy I actually think could be next would be Leon Edwards if he beats Masvidal in December. I think they really just have to because that guy's
man.
He's been on such a win streak, and he has fought Usman before, though not a lot of people would remember it. But you gotta give Leon his due. This guy tried to fight Chimaev like 3 times before COVID affected that. Whoever you give him, he fights effectively and makes that fighter not look great. It's just he has stuff happen to him that just kind of takes the public's eye off him.
Yeah, he wins if he beats Masvidal. You set up him and Usman and say April or whatever, and you put Chimaev on that same card for somebody else, a top contender. And then if also something happens, then replacements can be there. But I think that's the right move.
And you also probably, if Edwards wins, you definitely have to just go then Masvidal Covington because both are coming up with. I mean, those two just make the most sense, obviously, especially coming off losses. It'd be 2 in a row for Masvidal, but people just want to see him fight. Yeah, 3 in a row. Yeah, people want to see him fight. As we move on from that card, Josh, Rose Namajunas, Weili Zhang for the women's strawweight championship. Another competitive fight. This one didn't last 1:14. It went the full 25 minutes, and I thought Zhang looked great early on. It was just Rose was able to out wrestle Zhang, who'd been training with, Henry Cejudo and that camp out in Florida. And I thought Rose did enough to come around. She won a decision. I had Zhang winning the fight the first 3 rounds, much like I had Usman winning the first 3 rounds. But the judges saw it the different way, and Rose Namajunas wins and retains her championship.
So I still haven't seen this fight yet.
Okay.
I missed the last 2, but I went back and watched the main. So I still haven't watched this fight yet. But yeah, I heard it was very, very close. Obviously a split, and sometimes a split you never know. Like some judges out to lunch, but from everybody what they said, it could have gone either way. And I predicted that. I think when we did that, I think I took Rose by decision. I think, right?
I think we both thought it would go the distance. I think we split. I think you picked Rose. I picked Zhang. Yeah. I had a horrible night of picks, but it was like, you know what? At least the fights were very competitive and even.
You know what? I had actually a great night of picks. The only one that lost me was Frankie.
Frankie.
I know. I know, it's saddening, but yeah, I figured this fight would go to the distance and it would be very, very close. The first fight, not saying it was a fluke or anything like that, but I think it was a perfectly timed and placed strike where Whaley was just kind of not being very defensive at the time, and it caught her and finished her. So yeah, this one I knew it would go the full 25.
Yeah, and it did, and I thought, from a judging perspective, as you said, it was a split. One judge had it 49-46, which if you watch the fight, I think that's a little much. I don't think anyone won 4 rounds to 1 in that fight. It was definitely a close fight. You could have maybe given Rose one of the earlier rounds. I did not, but I'm still not mad at the decision because those are the kind of fights, the fight we thought would be a very technical, battle on the feet that if it got to the ground, it would favor someone. And, favored Rose this time. And she's able to defend her title and just looks so much more confident as champion than when she was the first time. She seems like she understands her role and has mentally got herself ready to be a champion. And now she, we're not sure who's next, but she seems to be gunning. I want to fight Carla Esparza. And props to Rose because the UFC is definitely not interested in that fight. They didn't even mention her name, but it's the fight that Rose wants to avenge her tough 20 loss in the final there. So you want to avenge a loss, and also Carla Esparza deserves the opportunity.
Well, who else would they give it to, I guess?
Well, I mean, there are options there at 115 pounds. I mean, the girl that just fought Mackenzie Dern, I think you could give it to her right there.
What's her name
again? As she's coming off that impressive win against Mackenzie Dern a few weekends ago at 115 pounds, as that was Mariana Rodriguez that got that win over Dern.
We both didn't even remember her name, so no disrespect, but I don't think it's title shot time yet. I mean, maybe if there's lack of contenders, but I think Esparza would be a bigger name than that, and has a win over her and has been on a streak. So I just think that makes more sense.
I agree with you. It's also because we have a card every freaking weekend, and it's like what you do one weekend gets lost by Tuesday the next week. But you're totally right, Josh, as Esparza's on a streak, has a victory over the champion in the division now. And I know we're not big on looking at rankings, but Esparza is ranked ahead of the aforementioned Rodriguez. So right there, the logic would state from that perspective, you kind of got to give it to Carla Esparza, who I'm shocked Dana didn't even mention, but good on Rose for mentioning her name in some interviews just earlier yesterday. So, and that's who she wants to fight. I think they got to make that fight. It's the one that's the most interesting right now at 115 pounds.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a rematch, and the champ lost. So yeah, I think that's I don't see any other fight right now, and with Whaley is in the Covington situation now too. She's obviously champ level. She was the champ, and just lost a split. So she could easily been the champ. So she's right there as well. You're not going to get a third one off the bat. So yeah, she's gonna have to fight somebody else in the meantime. But anybody else, man, I can't think of anybody. Yeah, other than Carla.
Yeah, it's got to be Carla. I think if Mackenzie Dern won the fight, she
Yeah,
probably may have gotten the opportunity, but she did lose a decision there. So
wasn't Mackenzie Dern at 25?
she did drop down to 115, I believe, last year.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I thought she was a 25er.
No, she is a 115
Really?
fighter in the UFC. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they were talking about like if Mackenzie wins her style versus Shevchenko, you know.
Nope, she's a 115er.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck, man, I could have swore 25. I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking. But yeah, okay, cool. Well,
I mean, look, there's so many people in these divisions right now. It's kind of it's tough to keep track, especially with how fast the UFC train keeps going. But we talked about Esparza is probably next in line. Would affect the rankings now. I would say Esparza is now the number one contender, considering Zhang was there. And you made the point. She's not getting Zhang. We're talking about. She's not getting another fight down the line. Heck, she probably got rushed into this fight a little too soon, considering how Rose won the first fight. A head kick in a minute 14. We normally don't see a fighter get finished, jumped right back into a title shot, but so is how the UFC makes certain fights right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think she's kind of in that, like I said, that Covington spot now where she's not going to get it right away. It'll be a couple fights probably if she does get another crack at it, if Rose is still the champ by then. But the best case for Whaley is somebody else fights Rose, and then Whaley beats somebody, and then somebody beats Rose, and then she can get a crack at a new contender or a new champ. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, we shall see where they go towards with that division. I mean, we look down the card. Obviously, your boy Frankie didn't hold up his end of the bargain. Got front kicked in the face there by Chito Vera. That was a very unfortunate finish, but a great win for Chito Vera, who also yesterday was like, I want to fight Corey Sandhagen or Merab Dvalishvili next. I mean, so this guy's willing to just fight anyone and just becomes a serious player right now at 135. Does Chito Vera?
Yeah, man. Yeah, he does. He's shown much improvement. And yeah, like even the commentator said he looked very big in there versus Frankie. So I've never met him in person or trained with him or anything like that. So I don't know how big he is, but he looked big for a bantamweight. And he looked good. Yeah, that front kick in the middle. He did that front kick numerous times throughout the fight, mostly to the body though. And that over time, over the rounds, that'll set up that shot to the head just for getting those stabs, the body toe stabs, man. They're taxing. They don't look like a whole lot, but they like just take the wind out of you, and they drain you. And then once Frankie thought they were going to the body, came right upstairs, right to the face, kind of like the Anderson on Vitor type kick, right to the open. Just before the toes to the chin, and man, sucks to see Frankie go down like that. I think a legend in the sport, but that's how it goes.
Did you hear that Frankie Edgar had like hip replacement surgery in like April?
Oh, really?
He apparently said he had like hip replacement surgery in April and then just fought here early in November. That's insane, and just shows just how yeah,
like what, 7 months?
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane that you're fighting the same year after you've had the surgery with that kind of massive surgery to your body.
Yeah, man. I mean that's very impressive still. But like, remember before, if you blew your ACL, your career was pretty much done.
Oh
now
yeah,
it's like guys are back in like 6-8 months. You know what I mean? So, this is where medical science actually helps us, and that prevents these injuries for ruin our careers and get back a lot quicker, which is great. But yeah, it's still it's pretty quick, man. But I guess in Frankie's eyes, he's 40. He's trying to get the fights in while he can. Because the clock is ticking, right? So I get trying to do the quick turnaround.
I get it too. I just more amazed, especially it is still a hip replacement surgery in MMA where you're shooting takedowns, sprawling, stuffing takedowns where your hips are very important in this sport, and to get that is insane. But I don't know where we go with Frankie Edgar. Like, I don't want to see him take more finishes like that. I know he's very upset with the stoppage. Thought it was a fine stoppage by the referee. Can't remember who it was at that point in time. But I don't know where we go. Like, this venture at 135 really hasn't worked out as much as Frankie thought. He's getting up there in age. And if he looked small to a lot of people at 135 when he was a former 155 champion, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, I mean, he was an undersized lightweight for sure. So that's why, like, he's a legend, because the guy went up there and fought guys like Maynard that were huge, and beat him. So
and beat BJ Penn twice. Put it on BJ Penn.
Yeah. So that's why I love Frankie. But like, I wonder if dropping to 35. Like, I know he said he doesn't walk around super heavy, but I wonder if the cut 235 is hard on him, and if that's taxing him, and also the ability to absorb a shot. Although those two shots that he took from Sandhagen and Cheeto I mean, man, right to the chin, both of them, knee and foot. Like, it's not like he just got grazed by a shot and got dropped. Yeah, I wonder if that's hurting him at 35, or does he go back up to 45, put some size back on, and try his luck there, or I don't know, because like I said, he looked small compared to Cheeto, so it's like, go back up to 45, and you're fighting monsters like Elkins and these Ortega, you know what I mean, like these monsters, Max. So
Korean zombies and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's tough, man. So I don't know where he goes. I think he'll probably stay at 35 and get another crack at it. I mean, he's also lost to very good guys. He lost to Sandhagen, he lost to Cheeto. Who else has he fought at 35?
He lost to what was that? Was 45. So his venture at 135 has been, he beat Pedro Munoz by split decision last summer,
right.
and then just those two losses.
Okay, see, so I mean, it sounds a lot worse than it really is. 2 losses to two really top guys, and he beat Pedro, man, and Pedro is a top guy. Very, very tough fight. So he is still right there. I just just been unfortunate these last 2 fights for him. That's all.
He definitely gets the benefit of the doubt. Like, he kind of gets the Dan Hardy treatment, where how durable he was at lightweight and what he meant for the UFC during that early boom period. He gets another couple kicks at the can, and who, as you said, who he's lost to in devastating fashion too. Like, flying knee from Corey Sandhagen, front kick to the face by Cheeto Vera, and a guy that just fought for an interim title, and a guy that's on his way to a fight or two away from fighting for a championship, whether whatever shakes out at 135. So I see Frankie definitely sticking around at that weight class. But I don't want to see him take more punishment like that, because this guy, we forget, he's been in the UFC since 2007. Like, that is insane. And
before I even started fighting,
I think I wasn't even done. I hadn't graduated high school yet when he made his UFC debut. So that's, to me, insane. But he's been there. He's been through those wars. Always a professional, but I just don't want to see him take more damage, especially as he is getting up there in age. And I know he wants to have a lot of time with his family, within the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. And like I said, it's not like if I was seeing him taking, like, just getting like fluffed with a shot and dropped and like finished for, or a shot where like, like, kind of like how Chuck is. I hate to say it, but like how Chuck is now with his shots. So, like, I just get knocked out with really anything. Then I'd be worried. I'd be like, hey, But like I said, both those shots that he got hit with would put most people out. Especially the knee. You know what I mean? So it's like, you can't say he's like can't take a shot anymore. Those were devastating shots. You know what I mean? So it sucks to see it, but yeah, Frankie's still got life there. It's been unfortunate the last 2 goes for him against top guys, but he's still there, man.
Still there, but definitely someone that's definitely still there is Marlon Cheeto Vera. So I hope he gets one of those 2 fights that he wants, especially the Dvalishvili fight. No one wants to fight Merab. Cheeto Vera wants to step up and fight someone like that with insane wrestling and can just ground and pound you or do whatever he wants. When the fight hits the ground, I'm down with that, because I think Cheeto's the kind of guy that loves to play the mental warfare, and Merab can kind of get caught up in all that emotion.
Yeah, and the Merab fights, that'd be good. Yeah, Merab's a tough opponent to fight against, just because stylistically it doesn't make for a fun matchup for a lot of guys, right? He has great cardio, and he's just gonna keep putting the pressure on you and use his wrestling and try and grind you and take you down. And a lot of guys don't want to fight guys like that, right? Because it's just difficult to deal with. And then even like in the last one with Marlon, like, I said, like, Marlon's got around to beat him, and he almost did. It came like this close, like, that could have been stopped in some refs, right? But he survived it, and the cardio, that guy's a machine, just keeps going. But yeah, that's an intriguing fight. I'd like to see it be a big win for either guy.
I think we see it. I think it becomes one of those number one contender fights. Early prediction for 2022. I think we see that fight. I'm leaning Merab, and at some point we get Merab versus Jan, and as kind of the revenge. Obviously, we got to have Jan and Sterling fight to unify the belts, but after that, it's Jan versus Merab. Merab's still representing the same Team Serra Longo boys. I think that's just the story right there.
I don't think it's there yet. I think you got other guys in the mix. You got Rob Font right there, who's been on a roll, and you got TJ back, who's got a win now. So I think those two guys will be ahead of Chito Vera and Merab. I think those guys are the next two behind them.
They are, but I can't trust TJ to make it to a fight right now with his injury situation. Font is there, sure, but I still feel I think Font in a way is behind where Merab is. If Merab was first to say maybe get that Chito Vera fight or anything like that, I still think Sandhagen's one of those guys.
Font is fighting Aldo, right?
Yes, in a couple weeks.
Yeah, so that's a huge one. If he beats Aldo, I think that puts him right up there. And Aldo, I love Aldo, man. He's the legend. I don't see Aldo. If he gets a win, that'd be huge. But I don't see him getting a title shot off of it. But it puts him again right at the top of the mix there. Keeps him there.
The exciting thing about this is there's like 5 guys at 135. Yeah. Where
there's
you look at
options, right?
When you look at, like, we're talking about welterweight, it's like, well, we'll see who fights Usman next. We're not sure, or even light heavyweight.
Yeah.
Where there's tons of options, tons of excitement. Why bantamweight right now is the best division across the board in mixed martial arts, whether it's UFC, Bellator, PFL doesn't have one, unfortunately, but any regional promotion, their bantamweights always shine out and shine bright. We can't talk about UFC 268 without talking about Chandler Gaethje, Josh, because it really was. It was for the super violent championship. A former World Series of Fighting lightweight champion, Bellator lightweight champion. The fight I really wanted to see when Michael Chandler signed, and it delivered and then some. I mean, there's something to say about a fight where, this is going to be crazy. You promoted this. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be sick. And it kind of just, you fall a little short of those expectations. This one lived up to them and then some. Yeah. I don't even like the shots that both guys took in that fight. I have no idea. And even in the one wrestling exchange, it just showed how great of a wrestler Justin Gaethje is, how he was able to just spin out of it, get back up to the feet. And, kudos to both Gaethje and Chandler. They put on a clinic. They set the tone. One of the best fights in the history of the UFC and mixed martial arts. Clearly the fight of the year. And it just lived up to all the hype.
Yeah, man, it did. It was I was so pumped. I was more pumped for this fight than any fight in the card. Yeah. And it was crazy. It was crazy. Yeah, you got to see. I mean, the only wrestling you got to see was one big nice takedown by Chandler, but Gaethje did beautiful, rolled right through it, and popped back up to his feet and the scramble. And I'm a fan of both guys. I would say I'm a bigger fan of Chandler. I've always been, and I think Chandler started this fight with the right game plan, and he was doing very well with that game plan. I think it was use your speed. He's faster than Gaethje. He's more explosive, more athletic, I think. And he was doing that. He's pumping his jab out there, and he's landing some good shots and moving well in and out. Gaethje wasn't really landing a lot of kicks early on because he was sliding out of range. But once he started planting, and once he started settling in, and once he started brawling, getting lured into the brawl, that's where Gaethje's world is.
Yeah.
And and ultimately that cost him the fight. It made it exciting fight for us. It was amazing, back and forth. These guys, both wobbled each other, both like dropped each other. Like it was just crazy. Fireworks back and forth. But yeah, I think that technical, throwing the technique out the window, kind of what Chandler did. I think ultimately it cost him the W.
Yeah, you never throw your technique out the window when you fight Justin Gaethje, who clearly has a chin made of granite, and that's what he wants you to do. He's tried to get away from crazy Justin Gaethje from World Series of Fighting in his early UFC. But if you want to play that game, if you want to get nuts, he'll get nuts. And
no, he brought that. No, he brought the World Series to the UFC for a while, and then he ran into Poirier and he ran into Alvarez. And that, it got him, got him knocked out, got him, losses. And then
he realized I can't fight like that in the UFC.
Yeah. And he can't do it forever. So he tightened up and he became much more technical and kind of, with Ferguson, watch that fight. Like he was just picked him apart, and then this fight, I think the goal of this fight was to kind of go back to that because, going, back and forth for technique with a guy like Chandler that's so fast and explosive for that division, I think it was a bad idea. So I think luring him into that brawl and making it like just nasty rock'em sock'em scrap style, that was the best game plan for him, and it worked out, man.
Well, even Chandler's corner told him after the first round, you don't have to prove you're tough as you don't have to prove you're a badass. Just go out there and fight technical. Like, because when you're trying to fight, like, it's not going to work out. It never works out. You can't. I don't know what Gaethje's chin is made of, but it's unbelievable. Some of those shots he took. I don't even know what Chandler's chin is made of. That one uppercut he hit in the second round that I think did knock out Chandler. Kind of woke up. Flash knockout, woke up on the ground. It was unbelievable. And then just at the end of the fight where Chandler's coming forward, hands down, letting Gaethje have, free range on the body, the head, wherever he wanted to put it. I don't know. Just
at that point, Chandler was just fully immersed into I'm in savage mode. I'm in entertainment mode. Yeah. I just want to basically I'm just out here I'm gonna build my fan space, which he did. A lot of people, gonna love Chandler more now watching him fight. And he just he abandoned all technical Chandler mode and went into just savage. And you know what? He still had some great spots in that third round. I think the first round, I scored for Chandler.
Yep.
And then the second round was totally Gaethje for sure.
Yep.
And then the third round, it was pretty close, man. What had it? Chandler had some good moments in that round, but just coming forward, taking shots, and a couple that he took, not dropped him, but stumbled him back. And those were shots he didn't have to take, but he chose to take them. But it looked bad in the eyes of the judges and whatnot, right? So when I went to the scorecards, I said, it's probably going to be 29-28 for Gaethje. And I think they got it right.
Totally got it right. I thought for sure Gaethje just kind of figured out Chandler and survived and weathered the storm early and got to just fight his fight, be technical when he needed to be. And as Chandler tried to make it into that brawl style, that's just
crazy though. You can all these shots that those guys took each other and Chandler got dropped and flash knockout, woke up, and then the one little shot by Oliveira. Just that's the one that finished it off. You know what I mean? So it just goes to show it's not all about it just kind of placement and timing. That's why MMA is so crazy. It's just hitting that one spot here rather than here at this certain time could be a game changer.
Plus throwing those, punches with that technical accuracy and those little gloves. It's not like boxing gloves, but there's more padding in there, right? It's those little gloves change everything and whatnot too. But it was just a crazy fight. And I think when you look at Gaethje's resume, he's just had some of the best fights in his UFC run. 3 losses, and his 3 losses are to Dustin Poirier, Eddie Alvarez, and Khabib. You want to talk about a guy that's building himself a Hall of Fame resume at 155. it's Justin Gaethje. And he said, he called out his shot after the fight, says, whoever wins between Poirier and Oliveira, I'm coming for you next. And I think Gaethje, after that, has to be the number one contender. I know lightweight's a pretty interesting and tight division too, but I think Gaethje, just his style makes for so much entertainment, and he's just technically super skilled and has to be in the mix.
Yeah, I give it to Gaethje. I give, they're fighting soon, right? Poirier and when is
December? The last pay-per-view of the year, yeah.
That's good. So then, I'd say, you book that fight again, like March, April, May, whatever, depending how it goes. You have Gaethje versus winner of Poirier Oliveira, and then you have Islam fight Beneil.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
And then that gives you a number one contender, you know what I mean, for the winner of those two. So, and also backups and whatnot. So I think again, I'm playing matchmaker again here, but I think that's the route I would go.
Hey, you got to throw Beneil Dariush in there because he kind of dominated Tony Ferguson back in April, May, whenever that was. And people really haven't talked about Beneil since then. As the sport has evolved, but he's right up there in the mix, deserving of
both good grapplers. We'll see how the fight's probably going to hit the mat, but we'll see how, kind of might be a grappling affair, which is kind of cool too. I know. Well, some people don't like it, but it could be a little nice chest.
It's important. It's mixed martial arts. It's kickboxing. You kind of got to be a good grappler to be at the top level of the UFC or anything of any major top promotion like that. So, but yeah, Josh, this was a crazy card too. Like that Chandler Poirier fight set the tone for the pay-per-view, but the prelims were just as exciting as well. Like Alex Oliveira made his UFC debut with a flying knee finish. A guy that's beaten Israel Adesanya in the kickboxing world, a former Glory kickboxing champion. And there's just something right now about MMA where these kickboxers are coming into MMA and just having all this success.
Yeah, pretty, you never used to see that before. You used to see the big kickboxer name come in, and then usually a good wrestler, grappler would take him down and beat him up. But that's cool. And that's the division I think that needs it too, especially with somebody that has knocked out the champ. That just adds that extra element of drama, right? You can always build on that and be like, oh, when they fought years ago, he's the only one that KO'd him. So, that's huge. I think that's a big win for the UFC and for that division.
It's a big win for the division. It's a big win for Pereira, especially a nasty flying knee over Michailidis. That perfectly crisp timed. Bobby Green finishes Al Iaquinta, his first finish in 9 years or 10 years, which is kind of insane. Yeah, it's kind of insane.
No way, really.
All of Bobby Green's fights, if he wins, it's going the distance, or if he loses, he's either getting the finish or it's going the distance. He's losing a split decision or something like that. First finish for him in 10 years. 10 years, something like that. A long time for Bobby Green to get a finish, and he looked sensational, really just picked apart Iaquinta on the feet and got it done, and pretty much said that Iaquinta saying he was going to have a flawless victory over Bobby Green kind of woke up the monster, and it was a flawless victory for Bobby Green.
Yeah, you could tell Bobby had his timing and his distance figured out. You could see him just moving. He was kind of almost Philly showing, letting Iaquinta hit him in the shoulder, taking that shots, and then just timed a nice perfect 1-2 as he stepped in, both on the chin, and he finished Al. It was very, very nice. And so composed, that guy. That guy's had a million fights, you can tell, just because he's so elusive in there and just relaxed. And that's when you're at your best, man.
Bobby Green, one of the rare guys still that fought on the affliction cards, still competing at a high level in mixed martial arts. So I love Bobby Green. Every time he fights, he's just Mr. Excitement and always brings the goods every time he steps in the octagon. This is also a card where we had two Chris's put on amazing performances. Chris Curtis with the first round knockout of Phil Hawes, a guy that's done everything needed to get to the UFC, a snub on the Contender Series back in season 2 in 2018, fought all over the world, Canada, Australia, whatever it may be, and had a big run going on the regional scene this year. And gets an opportunity to come, and he makes the most of it with a knockout of a solid 185 prospect in Phil Hawes.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's good to see guys like that finally get a crack at a bigger show, right? You don't hear about a lot of those guys because they don't get the shot, right? We don't get to talk about this, but it's finally nice to see guys do get it once in a while and make the most of it too. So good for him, man. That's awesome. Well deserved, obviously.
And as well, it wasn't his UFC debut, but Chris Barnett, another guy that's just been everywhere. Japan, South Korea, Canada. Chris the Beast Boy Barnett.
The breakdance guy.
Yes,
absolutely.
Oh, yeah. First,
I like
the finish. The finish he had on Gian Vellante, unbelievable. But how can you not like Chris Barnett? He is such a big, agile guy and such a great person. Like every time he talks or does an interview or something, he just makes you smile because he's got such a natural, happy energy.
Yeah, he does, man. I totally agree with that. He's just seems like I want to hang out with him. I want to have.
Yeah, exactly. I want to be his friend.
Yeah, I think he'd like me. Yeah. I feel exactly the same way. I think he's a exciting fighter, and he just seems like a solid dude. So I like cheering for guys like that.
And any man that is a heavyweight that can do spinning kicks like that, A-OK. He brings out the Bam Bam Bigelow vibes for me.
Right? The big man that can move.
An agile big man that can move and do flips and backflips.
He's like Vader.
Yeah. But can you imagine him in pro wrestling? Like, he may have had success, but I can't imagine how poorly someone would just mess up his potential. Thank God he chose MMA.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm happy for that. And that was the card. I mean, obviously, and as well, Ian Garry made a very impressive debut, the former Cage Warriors champion, with a first round KO over Jordan
Irish
Williams.
Guy, right?
Yeah, the guy that pretty much quoted Conor McGregor as well in Madison Square Garden.
Well, segueing from that show, it was good for the Irish guy there, but it was a bad night for the other Irish guys
on Bellator. Yeah.
Did any of the Irish guys win? Jesus.
Well, the two ones that they were really excited for, in Peter Queally and James Gallagher, they did not win, and they had a rough go out there. Obviously, just segueing there, Patricky Pitbull, second round TKO over Peter Queally to keep the Bellator lightweight championship in the family. And, it's a big moment there for Patricky. This is a guy he's won back those OG tournaments, but he's never been a champion himself. Like in Ryzen, at their lightweight tournament, he got to the finals and lost. Right. He's had, shots at this title before, but now he finally is a champion himself. And that's kind of a great story for someone that's, been in so many battles in Bellator, and finally he gets rewarded.
Yeah, that was nice of his brother too, to give up his belt to him.
I want my brother to fight for the title. Do it, Scott. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Good for him though, man. Again, a guy that's paid his dues, and it's good to got another opportunity like this, and making the most of it, and gets to be the champ, right? I understand why they made the fight. Because they're going to Ireland. It was kind of like Patrice was giving up the title, but I don't think Peter Queally is the championship level. You know what I mean? I no disrespect to him. I just think there's a lot better guys right now that should be fighting for the belt over him. And he got the win over Patricky the last fight just because it was a stupid call. He had a cut on the top of his head, and the doctor called it. But most places they would have kept that going, and the fight was going well for Patricky up until that. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and he got a shot. But he got it to do it in his hometown, but it just came up short.
Yeah, rough go for not for Patricky. It was a great night for Patricky. For Peter Queally there, as he loses a minute and 5 seconds into the second round. And then, for James Gallagher, this is a guy that seemed like he'd made so many big changes. He trains with James Krause out in Kansas City, trying to evolve his game. He's fighting Patchy Mix, who had a bad weight miss, came in about 2 pounds over the bantamweight limit with the pound allowance. And it just wasn't his night. Like, Patchy's still such a big 135er and was able to just kind of gas out Gallagher. And when we got to the third round there, Gallagher just shot him for that lazy takedown. left his neck open, and Mix jumps guard. So style points for Mix and gets the guillotine choke.
I say to my students and my coaches say to me, it's like you only jump guard if you know 110% you have that choke. Because if not, now you're on bottom and, you're going to get punched in the head. But yeah, like we were talking before, it was a battle just for guillotines in this fight. Both guys, I don't know how many times went for guillotines. Some looked pretty tight, and the guys were able to withstand them. But yeah, was it third round? Third round, right? It was third round.
It was third round, just early into it, 39 seconds into it.
Yeah, you could tell coming out into the third round, Gallagher was gassed. I guarantee his arms were probably burnt to shit from all the squeezing, trying to finish the fight. I thought Patty Mix would have finished him earlier, to be honest, if I had to pick. But I thought he'd win regardless. Gallagher's a young kid. He's still growing. He has shown he's improved. You know what I mean? But I just think, he's not at the level, yet. And definitely not at the level to fight a guy like Mix either.
Yeah, he really showed.
He's ranked ahead of me, bro. How's he ranked ahead of me?
Those rankings, the nerve of them.
Goddamn rankings. Well, whatever. I mean, like I said, it doesn't matter, but.
No, it doesn't matter. But I mean, you know what? Mix is a guy that's fought for a title before, fought Juan Archuleta. This is a guy that I thought was going to have obviously, it's one of those things in MMA where you miss weight, but you still have a good performance. I guess he was able to just get his energy back or rehydrate properly. But I thought that was actually going to affect him negatively. And I thought Gallagher, with fighting in his home country and having after that amazing entrance, I thought Gallagher would have had the second win and be able to find a way to either get a finish or do enough to maybe win one on the scorecards. But give Mix credit. This is a very top bantamweight in Bellator and one of the best bantamweights in the world. Someone that's just 15-1, and that loss was the title fight against Juan Archuleta. You can see why Bellator has invested a lot of stock in him. And if they do a tournament, he'd definitely be in it. I don't know what the situation is right now at 135. There's just so many guys in Bellator right now. Obviously, we know Pettis and Horaguchi are fighting for the title in less than a month's time. But yeah, there's that division stacked, and it was a big miss opportunity, I think, there for Gallagher. But I think him getting a second fight after all that time, spending time in Kansas City with Krause and everything. And that may have been a lot, maybe too many cooks in the kitchen, because he's kind of full-time with James Krause, and he had John Kavanagh from SBG there. Maybe you don't need both coaches in there.
Yeah, I don't know. That's all depends on the individual. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're right. Maybe it could, different signals, different like call signs. There's too much going on, possibly. Or it just could be more, now you have double the expertise in your corner that know you very well, and it could help you benefit, and be benefit. So it just kind of depends on the person and the situation. This would have been a big win for Gallagher, huge probably. And, with his marketing they have, because he's got all of Ireland behind him, they could really push him, and they could have even maybe gave him a title shot off of this, just because of, his presence in Ireland and what, or maybe a number one contender fight anyway. But yeah, this loss obviously sets him back, like any loss it does to anybody. And Mix, I think it, keeps him up there and amongst the very, very top. You have Pettis and Horaguchi fighting. I think you have Stotts as probably the number one contender. And I think the only reason he's not fighting for the belt is because of Pettis has it, his teammate. So if Pettis loses to Horaguchi, I think you'll see Stotts get the shot. If he wins against Horaguchi, then I think you'll have Stotts versus probably, Archuleta or a Mix for a number one contender, one of the two. It's kind of the way I'm seeing it right now.
Well, according to Stotts himself, who went on Instagram saying pretty much Bellator did tell him he is the number one contender after this fight with Horaguchi and Pettis, that he either gets the next fight for sure, or he can have a fight beforehand if he wants to stay active with one of these top guys at 135 pounds in Bellator. But I mean, we've seen that play out before, sometimes maybe too much of a risk, but I think Stotts just has that style. He could be a problem, but I don't know what the situation is. I think he's clearly doing the smart thing, waiting to see what happens. He's had 2 big performances this year. But, we'll wait and see. Obviously, he maybe want to try to help get his teammate ready for Horaguchi. But then again, that would play kind of a monkey wrench into it. And, no gym really wants to have their own guys fight each other for a title.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you're one of your main training partners you train with daily, like what do you do then? Your coach isn't going to corner one of you or doesn't corner both of you, or you're not training with each other. How does that work? Right. So it's difficult. I'm assuming he's just going to wait until December 3rd and see what happens and then kind of make a decision after that. Right. And like I said, if Horaguchi wins, I think that's good for Stotts because he gets the title shot. Sucks to see his friend lose. But if Sergio does win, then I think you'll see Stotts fight. I would probably say Archuleta or Mix in like the first quarter of 2022.
Yeah, I think you definitely have to get Stotts out there on one of the first couple shows of the new year for Bellator. But we wait and see because, as we said, that division is very interesting, and they have a title fight with, Horaguchi, who is a Bellator contracted fighter now after he's already regained the Ryzen belt earlier this year in Japan, and he's going to try to regain his Bellator belt, which he did give up after he had torn ACL, and tries to beat Pettis in less than a month. But Bellator, they're still rolling, Josh. They got a card this Friday with Chris Cyborg back, defending her women's featherweight championship against Sinead Kavanagh, who was 7-4. Another kick at the can here for these Irish Bellator fighters to get some gold on them. But that's a tough ask for any women's 145er to try to beat arguably the greatest women's mixed martial artist of all time in Chris Cyborg.
Yeah, man. It's just like I said, at 45, there's not a lot of contenders. I think the top 3 would probably be Cyborg, Nunes, and probably Holly Holm. And there's not after that. It kind of dwindles down. So there's always somebody, but it might not be the most impressive resume or the biggest name. But they have a chance. They have a shot. And where there's always a shot, there's always a chance. So we'll see what happens with this one. And I'm a betting man. I'm going to bet on Cyborg. But we'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, Bellator are smart. They are also booking another women's 145 fight on this main card. Arlene Blenko, who did fight Cyborg late last year, taking on Pam Sorensen, the former Invicta women's 145 champion, in her second go here at Bellator. So I can see them kind of trying to maybe play matchmaker already on this card. So whoever wins that fight, will Blenko get a rematch? I think maybe she would want another winner nut. But as we said, there's not a lot of sharks or fish in the ocean here at women's 145 in Bellator. So whoever wins that probably fights Cyborg for next. But when you look at this card, though, Josh, other than, the main event obviously is the big name of Cyborg, but there's some real good fights on this card. Obviously, I think the one a lot of the diehard fans are looking for, the return of Aaron Pico versus the J-Train Justin Gonzalez. And just Pico, as we talked about before, he's finally kind of figured out mixed martial arts. Doesn't have to be wild and reckless. He can be technical. He can use his wrestling when needed, but he can also showcase knockout power. Yeah.
I think he's coming into his own, and he's, using his mind now and his brain, and he's being smart about things, and we're seeing the full extent of it. Obviously a super athlete, amazing wrestler, amazing boxing, and he's showcasing everything really. And I think this guy's the real deal, and I think you'll see him fighting probably pretty soon against maybe McKee if he's still the champ at the time. He's on his way there anyway.
He's definitely up there. Interesting, tough opponent too. Justin Gonzalez, 12-0. Second fight for him in Bellator, a former LFA featherweight champion. So I think it's the toughest test here for Justin Gonzalez. With the improvements that Pico has made, but I expect that one to be fireworks as well. I think you never really, when you look at these cards that are happening now down the line, Bellator has a pretty good heavyweight fight here with two prospects in Steve Mowry, who's becoming a guy Bellator's starting to put some shine on, and a new signee in Rakeem Cleveland, who has over 30 pro fights and is just coming off a head kick KO in the B2 promotion down in the southern part of the United States.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's going to be a fight that I think really showcases just some players at 265 in Bellator.
Yeah, and it's the big guys are rare, or the good ones anyway. So the more of them that you can find and kind of build up, the better for that. Because you said it's especially in Canada, we always talk about that. It's the higher up the weight class you go, the less talent there is, and so it's always good to see some new big boys in there.
And the last person to look at on this card, the first fight has Muhammad Fauzi Sebi, who made his MMA debut earlier this year. He's fought in Jorge Masvidal's bare knuckle promotion, but this is a guy that's kind of getting a tryout here with Bellator. Bellator needs to sign this guy. I think he's going to win in spectacular fashion. This guy in Sebi, former national wrestler with the Egyptian Olympic team. He has the ability to just throw you around, and he's just got some good hands as well. Bellator needs to sign prospects like this. I know it's a tryout. Now? He's just 2-0. Only had 2 fights this year, but he's been
probably have he's on a 1-fight deal probably then.
Yeah, I think this is his tryout.
Yeah.
He technically is 3-0 considering he fought bare knuckle MMA and won, but 2-0 in MMA. But I think Bellator needs to sign him. I think he's going to impress a lot of people from what I've seen just in his 2 actual MMA fights. And as we said, Bellator needs to sign these prospects before a UFC or a PFL if someone comes around. Bellator needs some new toys to play with in some of these divisions, and I think Sebi is definitely one of those guys. I'm kind of shocked they didn't sign him to a longer-term deal, but I think he's going to blow this tryout out of the water.
Yeah, they've done that, with some guys before. They've kind of signed them early and they've built them. Like McGee, right? Like he's just one example right there. So, but yeah, I haven't seen the guy fight, so yeah, now I'm pumped to see it.
First fight too, Josh. I mean, though, unless you got VPN, you're gonna have to find a way to watch it on the Showtime stream out there. No YouTube in America.
Oh yeah, I'm out here. I can't watch the YouTube, man. Shit.
Unless you got VPN, because
I don't know what VPN is, so I don't think I have it.
Definitely, if you don't know what it is, then maybe it's for the best. You'll figure it out on Showtime.
Yeah.
But that is the Bellator card. It's a sneaky good one to close out their time in November, and this one is at the old Seminole Hard Rock in Hollywood, Florida, which I believe is their first time there, which is kind of crazy for how many shows that venue has held.
Yeah, I'm surprised they don't go there more, to be honest. I was hoping to get on this one, Florida, man. Much rather go to Florida than good old Connecticut.
Hey, you gotta keep it down low there at Mohegan Sun.
I just get a room there and just move in. That's my spot.
That's your spot. I'm sure the people of Unkinsville will be very happy to have a friendly new resident of their casino. And then there is a UFC this weekend as well. Max Holloway, Yair Rodriguez. That just screams excitement at 145 pounds. And, Max probably would be the number 1 contender, but he seems to be angling himself for bigger and better fights than a rematch with Volk. Like, he seems to want to fight Conor McGregor. He's got other options he really wouldn't get into earlier this week, but I'm expecting this fight to be just wild and crazy with both their styles.
Yeah, I think you'll see some flashy shit from Yair early. He'll try some shit. And I think over time, Max will just pick them apart. And I think you'll probably see, I'm going to go 3rd round TKO Max.
That would be, I think, in line. Just the output I think we've seen from Holloway, unless you're, insane like Calvin Kattar that can just take, punch after punch. If you don't survive the kind of output and the accurate output that Holloway puts out there. He says he's the best boxer in the UFC, and I believe he's kind of in the way like how Canelo fights. I know that's not really a fair comparison, but when Canelo throws punches, he's going to land them 9 out of 10 times. He's one of the most accurate professional boxers, and I think Holloway's kind of the same way in MMA. If he's throwing, they're going to be accurate, hard-hitting punches that affect the opponent as the fight progresses.
Yeah, Max is, has that volume strike already. He's not like look at the body style. It's,
Yeah.
you compare him to somebody like a Volk, really, or a Chad Mendez or somebody like that, or Josh Emmett, somebody that has that explosive, short, compact, real fast twitch, power shots. Max kind of has that like almost Diaz style where it's just constantly volume, 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 wear you down, wear you down, wear you down, and then eventually, land one on the button, finish you off. Yeah, he does it so well, man.
As well, when you look at this card, we have Felicia Spencer getting another fight at 145 against Leah Letson.
So what's going on? Is the division done? Is it still happening? Are they just throwing fights here and there?
I think the division is done except for like Felicia Spencer. Like every time she's come back and fought, they're like, okay, 145. And her opponent, Letson, hasn't fought since 2018. So this can't go well for Leah Letson, especially for the quality of a fighter that Felicia Spencer is.
3 years out of the ring, and you got a UFC. Was she already in the UFC and just it's been a long layoff, or did she get signed now?
She hasn't fought, Josh. She was on season 28 of The Ultimate Fighter. She hasn't fought on the finale card, which was the end of November 2018. Hasn't fought then. Since then, had some injury issues back in. Yeah, exactly. Like this is a tough ask, I think, for one Leah Letson. Anything can happen, but a tough ask.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of ring time, lost ring time, but who knows? We'll see.
But this card also has a couple guys down where you are now, those alpha male fighters. Obviously, we got Song Yadong and Cynthia Calvillo on this card.
Well, Cynthia's not here anymore.
Okay.
I think she's in Vegas now. She went to, where'd she go?
Syndicate?
San Jose, and then I think now she's in Vegas. So
okay.
She's out there anyway. But yeah, Cynthia's on this out really. She just fought not too long ago.
She fought Jessica Andrade not too long ago. Yeah, you are correct. But she is on this card. She fought Jessica Andrade back in September on the Volk pay-per-view, and now she's fighting here against KGB, Andrea Lee.
Okay, cool. Oh, that's good. I mean, I'm pumped to see Cynthia back in there. And then Song, I think they left. I think they left today to go. But yeah, I'm pumped to see Song, man. Song, he's very good. All around. And who's Song fighting anyway? I don't even know.
He is fighting Julio Arce.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, nice. That's a good fight. Yep.
It is a very good fight, especially Arce is one of those kind of cagey, crafty, tricky guys to kind of figure out with his style that he brings. But that is the card for Saturday, and it's kind of a bit of a deflatement for how good the cards have been. But not to say this is a bad card. I think there are some good fights and prospects to look at on this card. I think Kenny Njoku, who's fighting in the labeled right now on Tapology first fight against Da-Un Jung, who is a huge South Korean light heavyweight, is a guy to keep your eye on. Miguel Baez as well, one of the guys Dana's kind of interested because of his Puerto Rican background. So there's some good talent and prospects to keep your eye on this card. But you have a main event like Yair and Max. I mean, that just screams like fast forward video game style.
Yeah, they're juicing up in the main event, and they have a little bit lesser of a card, but yeah, it's still some good fights.
The last thing I want to ask you about before I let you go is so the promoter for Cage Warriors, who promotes some of the guys like Patty Pimblett, put out this post pretty much saying if you're a top tier fighter and you're fighting or doing interviews with media that are kind of up there, you should be paid for the interview. Like the fighter should be requesting the person doing the interview to be paid. And I just think, like, what are we doing at? I understand you want to, have that fighter to know his worth, but to be asking to be paid for interviews, that's just a no-win situation for the fighter and the camp representing the fighter.
And you as a
I'm not gonna pay. I'm not gonna be paying. Like I look so
fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do I guess it depends on the interview. Do they get paid for the interviewer?
I would only assume. I think major outlets, like someone's getting something for timely and how quick. But I don't think you're ever paying an individual to be interviewed. That just goes against any journalistic integrity. You're not going to pay anyone to be interviewed.
I have no idea. Does like let's say freaking LeBron James, what does he sits down with a major organization and they interview him? Does he get paid for that? I don't know.
Like when he made that announcement for Miami, I'm sure there was some money exchange, but that was more of him making an announcement than him doing an interview.
Right.
But for an interview, I don't think anyone's really paying anyone. The only people I know that are paying are like those wrestling shoot interviews. Yeah, you're paying the wrestler because he's just going to sit there and tell stories and talk about people for hours. Like, okay, sure. You're really just like, hey.
I don't know, man. It's like, I disagree. It's like everything in the world now, man. It's like, oh, you got to pay for this. You got to pay for this. It's just like, it's costing you a fucking beating to live. Enough's enough. So I'm not in for it, even though I'm a fighter and like it'd be beneficial to the fighters. But that's kind of like, I think it's just asking too much, man. It's like,
I think I'd be a disservice to you. Like, you just like, hey, you owe me X before we can talk. Like, no one's gonna want to talk to you.
Shoot me a nice 20 and then we'll talk. You know what I mean? It's like, I get that you're paying for people's time. I understand that, but I look at it also as, this guy puts out the interview, this will put more eyes on me too, and maybe help me that way as well. So you can look at it, that's more publicity that way that I'm not paying for, so it's like marketing I'm not paying you for. So you can look at it as an exchange like that as well. So yeah, I don't know. That guy's just, you can tell that guy's just like very much promoter, like businessman trying to get every dollar he can out of everything.
I can see the point of, for sure, like, X fighter I interview is going to be better for me than it is for the fighter. And, time is money, but you're still never going to pay to interview anyone or anything. It just goes against any journalism ethics. Like, because then at that point, why don't we just tell the fighter what the questions we're going to ask you, and you can come up with your own answers ahead of time. And, just, there's no point in doing an interview. They're supposed to be natural, off the cuff and whatever. But yeah, it's going to promoting to too high of an end. And I think it's going to do a disservice to a lot of the guys that you interview.
Yeah.
Or represent, I should say.
Yeah. I agree. And is he the manager of that Patty guy?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there you go. Where's this? He wants his cut, right? So that's where that's coming from. But yeah, man, there's too many people. Just got to just chill the fuck out sometimes, just bring it back to 1995 and just like, stop suing everybody and stop asking for money for everything. And everything you do is you got to pay for this, pay for that. Just like, let's just chill out a bit.
Bring it back to 95, everyone. I think that's the perfect way to end this show. Bring it back to 95 when like Heat was a top movie at the box office. The OJ trial was around for everyone. Not hoping an incident like that happens. Yeah, but
OJ trial, all crazy shit. But different time, I guess.
I think the big hit at that time was the Macarena. So, I mean, if we can have a song that just takes over like all that and just mellow out, I think that's a good motto to live by. Take it back to 95, where life was a much simpler time.
Right. We have in my living room, I have like a little, I don't know, like a little plaque thing, and it says, put your phones away and no Wi-Fi, act like it's 1995 and talk to each other, or something like that. I mean, it's pretty cool.
It's a good motto to have. I mean, I'm bad at that. I definitely spit way too much.
We all are, man. We all get in the habit of just, being glued to phones and shit. And it's a tough habit to break because it's like everywhere you go, but you got to make an effort anyway.
Let's all make sure we can all head out to the local Blockbuster and rent a flick and just sit down with the fam. It's something like,
I wish.
Go to Alaska, you can.
Oh, why Alaska?
Yeah, they have the last Blockbuster apparently.
No, the last Blockbuster is not Alaska. It's actually in Washington.
Washington, sorry, my bad. Yeah. I thought it was Alaska. No, yeah. Well, go there. You're not too far. You could technically drive to that place.
True.
And
I'm only like, I just got to drive up a state here, and
yeah.
there.
Well, I think that's a good motto for everyone. Let's just chill, relax, and enjoy some fights this weekend. And as you, Josh, enjoy your time out there. Stay safe and get yourself ready for December 3rd. You return to Bellator.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's what I'll do.
All right, so that's going to wind us down for this week. For my broadcast partner, the Gentleman Josh Hill, I'm Jason Hagholm. Peace out, and we'll see you all next week.